Okay, so this is a very brief introduction to the Google Colab notebook environment. And the Google Colab notebooks are based on Jupyter notebooks. So if you have any familiarity with those, you'll instantly recognize the Google Colab notebooks. There are a few differences though. But if you've never seen them before, the way these notebooks work is they have different cells, and you can either have a text cell, which can be formatted quite nicely. So for this first cell here, I've got something in bold. I've got some mathematical functions, and then you have code cells. And so to run this code cell, we can either just click on this little arrow. We can go up to runtime and run the cell. We can also just do a couple of shortcuts. The shift return or shift enter will also work. So when we run it, we get the output immediately below it. And the really nice thing about these notebooks is that you can modify the code and instantly kind of see what happens. So if we change this to 4, we should see a different looking graph, and sure enough we do. And so you can play around with the code and really get a feel for what's important and what's going on with the code. I've just included a few examples here. So this is Matplotlib. You notice the first couple of statements there are importing NumPy, importing Matplotlib.pyplot. One of the really nice things about using the Google Colab is that you don't have to worry about whether or not the packages are there, the packages that you need to import. In very few cases will you ever have to do anything extra. There are so many packages that are already pre-installed for you. And so there's really nothing to install. There's also no software to install on your computer. This will run in a browser, any browser, on any computer. It'll also run on a tablet. It'll even run on your phone. I've pulled up these notebooks on my phone, and you can get it running. And the reason for that is all the computation is taking place on a Google server. And this is a completely free service too, which is very nice as well. So I've just got a few examples here to show you some of the cool things you can do with these notebooks. I've imported Seaborn, which is a really nice data visualization library. And let's see what happens when we do this. So we get a couple of nice graphs, a couple scatter plots with different shapes and different colors. These are sort of preset data, so they can do some example graphs. These are another type of graph you can do with Seaborn. Plotly allows you to do interactive graphs. Let's see what this one looks like. It's a map of the United States, and it allows you to zoom in, zoom out. You can roll over individual counties and get the data that is being represented by the color. Some of these can be embedded in web pages as well. Bokeh is another really nice interactive graphics package. So let's run this one here, and we get again, using a very standard data set of car data. This gives us, oops, that one didn't run there. This gives us again, an interactive graph showing different cars. You can roll over and see the actual data that's being graphed. So this is miles per gallon. All the green ones are 4 cylinders. These are 5 cylinders, 6 cylinders, etc. You can even create little widgets or applications. So here's one that is graphing a sine wave. You've got a title there. We can change the sliders and instantly see the results. And of course, this is just a mathematical function, but you could do this with some data that you were trying to manipulate. So it's very, very nice. And let me just show you what would happen if you did a search on your own. So if you just do a search for Google Colab, one of the things you'll see is there's some data science and some machine learning links right away. And that is another really nice thing about Google Colab, is that they actually give you access to GPUs. So later on, when you're doing some more computer intensive, processor intensive work, if you're going to do some machine learning examples, for example, you can actually get access to some GPUs for free on Google. So let's just click on this first link for Google Colab. So here's what you first see. And one of the things you should notice is these different tabs here. We've got the examples, we've got recent, we've got Google Drive, we've got GitHub, and we've got upload. So you can actually save all your folders or files on Google Drive or on GitHub. And then you can also go through a few different example ones here, and I would suggest that you do take a look at these. And I will also be sharing these with you, and then you'll be able to just work with the ones that I've shared, but you'll also be able to create your own. Let's just click out of this and take a look at the welcome one here. So what is Colaboratory? It sort of gives you some of the things I've already talked about, and it sort of walks you through some of the different features of Google Colab. Now, what I'd like to show you is how to actually modify or work with your own. You can go up here and just go to File, New Notebook, and it'll create a new notebook for you. And it starts off, you can change the title to whatever you like. It starts you off with a code block. Now, maybe you want to start with a text block, and let's put that right at the top. You can double click this to edit, and you can see there's the fairly straightforward editing tabs there. It's not like Microsoft Word. You can't do all sorts of fancy formatting, but you can do the basic things. So let's just say an example here. And then let's click in the code block. And so you just start typing in Python. And the first thing you should notice is that it does code coloring for you. So it's not a complete integrated development environment, but it has a lot of the features of an integrated development environment. It has code coloring, it has code completion. You can see we've got the different colors here for the keywords, the purple for the for, the blue for the in, the range for a built-in function. It does automatic indentation, which, as we're going to see, is extremely important in Python. If we actually did a tab at that point, well, I'll show you this in another video, but it does have code completion and also suggestions. So once you hit Shift Enter, you get the output immediately below that, and you can clear the output if it's a really big output. You can go back up and change the code right away and just run it again and see what happens. You can see that within the code block there's a few different options here. We can pop that code block up or down. We can link to it. We can add a comment. We can copy it or just trash it altogether. And so this is a really, really nice way to experiment with Python and to explore code that other people have created. And I've created a whole series of these notebooks to introduce you to the basics of Python. So I really think you're going to enjoy the Google Colab. There's absolutely nothing to install on your computer, which is one of the reasons why I chose it. And it runs on anything that can run a browser. So a tablet, a phone, a computer. And I think you're really going to enjoy using Google Colab.